to the cloud, and boom, we're live. As far as you know, well, we're alive. Well, actually, we might not be by the time we get this. Who knows? But we are right now. Me through traversing my various little notebook here to see where I can put some notes for what we're going to talk about. Randomness, networking thing. Came across a guy that he focuses on. Um, they're like a life coach, and their focus is burnout and stress, and like high achievers and high performers, and trying to keep them from burning out, stuff like that. So swap business cards, and so they've got like a whole. It's like a Tony Robbins kind of thing. They've got like a whole process they go through for this, but. Like I said, hey, how would you like to be on a podcast? And he's like, sure. He's like, so I think we may have a guest for a future episode for an interview kind of thing.
Cool.
Trying
I
to get
know Raina
on.
was still interested. In fact, she's about to move out of the local into her an actual brick and mortar. So she's
Oh,
moved
wow.
to the location. Yeah, so she's growing. I think she's got a new vending machine coming to Nashville, and so for
Hmm,
macarons, it's like she's taken off. It's pretty
cool. Let's, let's see. Did we have leftovers? I don't think we had any leftover
cool. I think
thoughts.
we're caught up on at
All
least
right.
that backlog.
So let's see. What are some good? Oh, thinking.
I will preface this. This is a cocktail hour. Really.
Oh, maybe I should do that too, because I'm just running with decaf tea right now. Um, you know what? Hmm. All right.
It was a
Well, you're doing
coffee
that.
day because I was at the WeWork space
Uh,
at the local. Great place if you're in Jackson, Tennessee.
all right. I'm going to step off camera for a second and pour myself a cocktail while we think about that, because you know what? It has been a day/week.
So while you're doing that, any ideas since I can still pick you up on the earbuds?
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of what is some good. I'm trying to think, like, what have we not really touched on that would be building better uh, business?
Especially towards the end, since we are near the end.
One thing is I'm looking around my place here, my domicile. One thing we could go into, it's a little bit more of a, feels like a Christmassy kind of thing to do, but we could go into like um, choosing proper equipment for your, purchasing proper equipment for your employees and stuff like that. So things like, in, making a decision, is it really worth it to go, buy a large screen for their computer, or buy a, you know, do you buy a, spend extra money on a laptop, or do you just say, screw it and go with like, something that's just the cheapest thing that's off the shelf that like does the job, and things like that, because there's definitely some level of the investment in the tools, but that's going to pay off, because that's also, and that actually even goes into things like, what if I get things like training, and some of those tools, like, do I get an IDE, or I just say no, just use like Notepad or something like that.
Yeah, because we talked about was it employees or scaling, I think. Build a sustainable business, pitching your business, product enhancement. Yeah, I like that. That definitely. So maybe uh let's see. So yeah, making decisions to upgrade equipment, cost versus ROI versus time. Um
And so we did sort of do that.
no,
I don't
no.
remember.
I was reading what you I summarized what you just said.
Okay. Like I said, I don't remember doing
Yeah,
that.
off the rails, business tune-up checklist, how to refresh, refocus. Yeah, we didn't really touch on. I mean, we touched on other things like when to hire people, yeah, how to build real relationships that grow your business, networking strategies, continuity, recovery. Oh yeah, there's more up here. business growth strategies, when and how to scale successfully, leveraging AI. Yeah, this would work. Which is kind of interesting because, when I rebooted the business or rebranded the business, I actually had to buy some hardware upgrades because some of my machines were just, well, they were functional, they were just slow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a regular challenge depending on where you're at. Like it used to be. That's part of why I moved over to the Apple and Mac world many years ago. Is because I was going through about every about every 12 to 18 months, essentially. Well, desktops I could go maybe 2 years. Laptops, it was literally like basically every 18 months I needed a new laptop because it was things were moving too fast at that time too. But it just it wasn't helping me out very much. So um, yeah, and I had to decide on a regular basis. Okay, do I go ahead and do I get a bonus this quarter, or do I go get another laptop so I can do my work better, or you know get another machine so that I have a network that I can test on, things like that.
All right. So here,
Yeah.
just based on that, so making decisions to upgrade your business. Um, something as
All right, let's
something.
go with upgrade your business because I think
So here's, hang on. All right. So that's kind of the high level, but then with under that, I've got bullets for cost versus ROI versus time. Uh, Maybe update your training materials, update your environments.
well, and even your employees,
Huh?
even your employees.
Yeah, update employees. Onboarding materials, virtual or physical environments, equipment. Yeah.
All
Does that
right, let's see where this one's going to go. Okay, let's see. Well, where do we want to talk about? What's the second one going to be? Then they're going to do upgrade your business.
Well, we could go with this and then kind of go like with some of the other ones where we probably get something out of this one that will lead into the next one.
That's true, and this may be a good two-parter, anyways, because we could talk more about equipment in one, and then maybe upgrading your employees in the other, or something like that. Or some. Um, so we have we talked about like legacy systems and stuff like that, and updating your stuff to like modern technology?
I don't think so.
Okay, so that's another one. I mean, this is like self-serving, but I mean, because that's definitely what we do all the time. That's what we talk to people about all the time. But yeah, we'll give that a shot. Hello and welcome back. We are Developreneur. We are the Building Better Developers podcast. We are continuing this season, getting close to the end of Building Better Businesses. This episode, I'm not going to make you wait. We're actually going to talk about upgrading your business. Now, how we talk about upgrading it, that you're going to have to wait for. You're not going to have to wait for me to introduce myself. My name is Rob Broadhead. I am one of the founders of Developreneur, Building Better Developers. Also, a founder of RB Consulting, where we are what they call a boutique consulting kind of place. And actually, it's funny. Somebody asked me the other day being today, what is boutique consulting? And my thought on it is that you have your general consulting companies, especially in the IT world, that they basically just throw bodies at a problem. So it's like, hey, you have a problem. We have people. They have skills. We're going to send them to you. We're going to bill you for them. Boutique is a little bit more of like, we have a specific set of skills. We have specific problems that we're going to work with you on. And it's really more of a partnership kind of thing where we're going to help you do better. We're not there to like just throw hours at you. We're actually there focused on solving problems, not just throwing random resources at you. I know that seems a little insulting to some consulting companies. So if so, call yourself boutique then and make sure that you actually do that. The way we work is we sit down with our customers, we talk about their business and understand what is the secret the special recipe that you have that you're going to sell to your customers. Why are you special? What do you do? And then within that, and understanding your business and how you approach things, we're going to help you figure out what is the best set of tools that you have out there. It's using technology, maybe even your people and things like that. Is how do we build a better business, sort of that infrastructure for you to do business better? We do that through simplification, integration, automation, innovation, there's a lot of shuns out there, and we use all of them, whichever it is that we need to help you move from sort of lost and trying to figure out what you want to do to having a plan, a roadmap, and then executing on that roadmap so that you are in a better place for today, tomorrow, for months and years down the road. All right, good thing, bad thing. Bad thing. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, in the time of year where there's like storms, tornadoes, hail, everything. It's always fun here. So yesterday, totally had to live through it. I had to drive what should have been 10 minutes away. It took like 30. And at one point, which was sort of funny, as I'm sitting there about to leave, pouring down rain, and I'm like, I'm going to wait a few minutes because I don't want to walk through this pouring down rain to get to my car. In the time that it waited for, like between when I sat down and when the rain abated enough for me to leave, was only like 2 minutes. But my estimated time to reach my destination went from 30 minutes to almost an hour. And then I got on the road and was able to make a couple of things that, I got it down to 45 and I got it down to about 30 minutes and got there. But it's just a bad thing because it sucks when you like get out on the interstate and you can't see 10 feet in front of you and everybody else has got their red blinkers going on, all that kind of stuff. And it's just slow and exhausting to do so. Good thing is that my youngest is getting close to his capstone project, and we got to spend some time with him. He's in film and was directing his film for his capstone project, and we got to hang out with him and the film crew and do all kinds of stuff there. As far as like helping out and even did a little bit of acting and stuff like that. I didn't, but we helped with some of those and got some people in there, and just it was a good old time, hanging out and just being behind the scenes watching that kind of stuff go on. So as always, sometimes it sucks to watch the sausage get made, but sometimes it's actually really cool to do so. That was my good thing for this week. A mediocre sort of meh kind of thing this week is that Michael is over there, but he's going to make it better with an incredible introduction. Go for it.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Meloche. I'm one of the co-founders of Developreneur, Building Better Developers. I'm also the founder of Envision QA. We are, like Rob mentioned, we are very tailored to more of a boutique style company where we work with businesses, really walking through how your business work, but we do it through the tester's eyes. We do it from the user's perspective. So we spend a lot of time understanding how your business works, what the problem is that you're having, how to solve it, and really understand how it all works. So at the end of the process, we can build you a custom solution that works for your business to streamline the process and make things work better. Or we can help you find a custom system or cookie cutter system on the shelf, which may be cheaper and may get the job done without having to spend a lot of time developing. We look at both the pros and the cons. At the end of the day, we try to save you money and give you the best solution possible. Good thing, bad thing. Rob, you already mentioned the weather, so I'm not going to touch on that. Good thing, I have been working on a very difficult project for months now, and I've had a particular task that was assigned to me that I started working on sometime early April. This is a legacy monolithic mess of an application. And after weeks of working through this, 90% of the problem being not having access to the systems I needed access to, which people didn't know what you needed access to. So it's one of those where you kind of peel back the onion, whoops, roadblock, whoops, roadblock. Well, needless to say, today, I finally was able to push the button to commit the code, wrote the test, everything worked, it went in. Finally, job done, moving on. So that's one of those great moments. You just kind of like, yes, I checked something up, but it's a big sigh of relief. It's like, yay, party time. Bad thing. It's that time of the year. It's You'll be watching this probably after Memorial Day, but my mom passed away back in 2019 on Memorial Day, pre-COVID, and well, it was kind of bittersweet. My relatives went to visit the grave today, took some pictures. I got that. So it's a reminder of that time of year. You lose loved ones. So that was kind of bittersweet getting that. So that was kind of my bad this week.
Well, let's try to bring it up a little bit here and talk about upgrading your business. Now, the thing that got me thinking about this topic, for those of you that weren't there in the pregame here beforehand, the pre-show, is looking around at some of the, just for lack of a better word, the toys that I have, some of the technology that I actually have acquired, and intentionally done so as part of my business over the years. I can go very, very far back, because I can go back to the point where I had an actual fax machine, because there was a day where like you really needed one for a business, sort of. I don't think I use it that much, but theoretically you needed to have one. I also had a speakerphone. This is before you had cell phones and stuff like that. So I had a nice little, like, one of these that you could put out there and you could talk to people. I've had wireless stuff over the years and things like that. And then eventually, things like desktops, laptops, tablets, all the good things like that, including, like, now I was looking around some of the things like extra screens, so that you can have your laptop, but then you can have like 2 or 3 extra screens there. If you could have a desktop, that you can have these really, like, wide areas of views and things like that. Yes, these things are toys to some extent, or they're like bonuses and bells and whistles, but there's also value to them. And I want to talk about not only that, but there's also more direct things like software and things like that. There's a difference between having a really, like, crappy, um, you know, mail client from the 90s versus having something that is something modern. There's a difference. There is, and it people can get into religious discussions almost about this, about things like having an alternative software to something. For example, for a long time, and there are big camps on this, but there's like Photoshop that was expensive and still is not the cheapest thing, and then there are other things out there, like a Da Vinci and some of those, that are gonna be priced differently. But in some cases, there is going to be a productivity cost. Sometimes there's not. And that's what I talk about, is stepping into some of these things, is looking, and this is one of those, it really is a business checkup kind of thing, is looking at the things you do on a regular basis. And not only that, really, it's the things that your employees do on a regular basis. And considering, is it time for me to get something better? Is it time for me to invest in my business? Now, this can include things like training. Maybe it's your employees they're struggling to use, like, let's say you go in and you're like, okay, we're going to go use HubSpot, and we're going to use the free version, and that's going to help us with our customer relationship management. Maybe it's going to set up our website and some things like that, because it says it can do it. So it's like, great, we're going to do this. But then you get it, and your employees are losing days trying to figure out how to just use it, that they don't have those skills. And a lot of times some training will help get them over the hump, or sometimes even more than that. It'll go from totally useless to, super awesome employee, because now they know how to do it. Now they've been trained on it. But of course, some of these things you're going to find, it's like, I'm going to train them, but to train them, I've got to pay plane tickets, and I've got to pay for a hotel for a week, and then I've got to pay thousands of dollars for a training class and all of that. And you're going to look at it and say, geez, do I really want to spend $20,000 training 2 of my employees to enter data into a system that I just spent $50,000 to do? And I'm making up numbers, but it feels like that, or maybe worse. And then the bottom line is, in a lot of cases, yes, it actually is valuable. That's the whole reason that people can, honestly, that's the reason they can charge that amount of money for their training and some of the things they do. Not everybody is like us, where we are just out here throwing stuff at you all the time. There are a lot of people out there that is their business. That is what they do. That is how they make money. And the reason they make money is because they bring value. They're not just, randomly saying, okay, we're going to sit in front of a video camera for several days with a class full of people and just charge random amounts. There is a value to it. They can see that, hey, yes, you're going to spend $5,000 for this class, but if you're, typical employee, you're spending, let's say, it's a $50,000 a year salary. You don't have a lot of time that you have to save before now you're starting to rack, 10% of their time over however much time. Let's save them 10% of their time on a week for the rest of their career. Well, depending on how long they're with you, you're probably going to earn that money back fairly quickly. So, there's a lot of things like that you want to take into account. And the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it out to you real quick, because I can see
So I have a question for you. So your idea there prompted a question I want to throw at you. that I think goes well with this. So when it comes to training your employees, what is your thought of training versus hiring a more senior developer for the cost to train your employees?
And it's not just a senior employee. There are some cases where it's training your employee versus hiring a specific set of skills. So I will, let's broaden that a little bit, and that includes things like, honestly, it even includes things like people with college degrees, but also with certifications, with experience. You're going to get cheaper if they don't have experience. If they just come out of college, they just need a job. They're not going to require a lot. But if they've been doing this for 40 years, they're going to want a pretty serious salary. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. Now, this is where I am more of a do as I say, not as I do kind of person. Because myself, I am very quick to invest in the higher end. I am not going to sit there and, especially with my business and with that kind of stuff, I do not find it valuable to go for, to lowball a situation. I would rather get somebody, like a developer that is more skilled and spend some more money than I would sneeze. And I'm going to put that there. So hopefully you can pick that up later because we can edit that one out. I want to be able to, I find that if I don't spend the money up front, I'm going to end up spending more time bringing that resource up to speed. And time is the thing that I am not a fan of wasting time. So I will spend more money. And I have been in these arguments. One of my favorite that I was right with a company many, many years ago. There was a guy that was like, he was decent. He was really green though, like, maybe 1, 2 years experience. And then we had a guy on the other end and now I think he's like a C-level, C-suite person somewhere, something like that. Very accomplished, very skilled person, but was literally going to cost over twice as much to hire him. And I argued quite a bit. I was like, we need the double salaried person. Now, granted, that wasn't coming out of my back pocket, but it was something that was like in our budget, stuff like that. So I had skin in the game. We hired the cheap person. They ended up being not useful, not effective. And we came back later, and after, I don't know, it was a few months, I think, that person went away, and we were able to go back and get the better person, the more expensive person, and honestly, better as well for the position, and better as a human being. John, if you're out there, you probably aren't listening to us.
I had a feeling you were talking about him.
He was a very good guy, and that was one of these that I said all along. I was right. I was like, we should have spent the money early on. We would have saved a lot. And you got to think about with employees, that's actually a very big thing, is that there's a cost to churn. So if you're going to get somebody, you're going to have to either spend the time and train them, or you're going to have to make sure that you bring somebody in. And then you got to watch out for like, oh, I spent all this time training them and then they go on to something else. So, now they're worth more anyway. So now I've got to pay them more. I think about that with tools as well. You could get the freebie version and stuff like that. And now it's nice that you have a lot of this software as a service and cloud things that they will scale up with you. But in the past, there's been a lot of situations where you're going to sit there and go, you know what? I don't want the community version or the free version. There's too much that I get out of the enterprise version that is value to me. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I was hoping you would throw that one over to me because I am the biggest cheapskate when it comes to things along that line. I look for the free option in everything it can possibly do because I'm a strong believer in open source. And also, been around for a long time, WordPress or forget Corel. Corel and Microsoft fought hand in hand over Office and WordPerfect or Works or whatever the hell they were back in the day. Now you have Libre, which really is a good alternative to Microsoft Office. You have GIMP, which is a more complex tool than Adobe Photoshop. There's always a tool out there that you can do on the cheap. The question you run into is the time to learn the tool costly versus buying something off the shelf. So like Libre, no, you can download Libre, boom. It is fairly simple, almost identical to Microsoft Office. GIMP versus Photoshop, there is a learning curve to GIMP versus Photoshop. There's a lot of things that are similar, but GIMP can be a little less forgiving if you don't know what you're doing. So you have to spend a little time training up on that. So there are trade-offs to all these. The question is, what is your return on investment? Are you spending more time learning the tool versus using the tool? That is usually my kind of go-to to determine what to use. The other thing you got to be careful of, especially for small businesses, is are you reaching the point that community editions are violating the licensing of the community edition? I have not quite reached that point, but I've been with companies where we were small, quick startup. Hey, great, we can use all these tools, but then you reach a point that you can't. And if a internal or an external software audit is done on your company, you're going to find that, oh crap, I'm out of compliance. I'm now going to be billed X number. So you have to be careful to watch out for those things. So if you are using free tools, community editions, open source, make sure you understand the licensing before you get too far into these tools. If you're just a small one-off person just doing things, you're probably fine. But as you grow, this is something you definitely need to add to your tune-up or your business upgrade ideas. The other thing along that line that we were talking about is you mentioned tools a while back. Well, in the world of cloud-based development today, we have things like Docker, you have AWS, we have all these tools that we can use to throw up virtual environments. And to go from tools to like your workforce development, a lot of times make sure that the software you're using, not just the tools, but your environments, make sure they're all up to date. Make sure you're not running into something that is running into security risks, especially if you're dealing with things like HIPAA, healthcare, banking, things along that lines. Make sure that what you're using is still compliant. Also, make sure that you're not running into zero-day crap. Make sure that like your Windows is updated, your Mac's updated, your devices are updated. Make sure you stay compliant and up to date, because a lot of people can fall behind on that. And you run into the situation where, crap, this bug came out and whoops, now my software's down. Let me throw that back to you, Rob. I know I kind of tallied a little bit.
Yeah, there's definitely that side. And I think this is where I want to go back too much on that. We have talked about that a little bit, security and some things like that. So I do want to swing back around a little bit to the equipment and the training side of it is really the things. And this is, yes, it's a little bit about your customers and things like that. So it may be like purchasing, having a really good license for some maybe help desk software, or outsourcing your help desk to somebody that is going to do a better job than your employees. But sometimes it is more cost effective, obviously, to do that kind of stuff. It may be that everybody hates the offshore help desk, but that is cost effective at times. And then there's also now AI is starting to be a part of this and things like that, where it's like there are cost savings, but then there's also these where it's you're not really sure. It is like time. Like I said, I'm very cognizant and intentional about time, but also it is something that it's very easy to lose it when you're thinking, lose it in the calculations when you're saying, hey, bottom line, I spent $1,000 on this person or on this hardware, software, or whatever it is. Where is my bottom line increase? You don't see directly that I did this and it saved an hour a day, which you can do your math in and say, okay, now that means that I earned that $1,000 back that month, next month, 6 years, however long it was.
We keep talking about employees, but the other thing we have not mentioned that does fall into this category is our time. Because you and I have done this a lot where, oh, I can do this quickly. And I think in my mind that, oh, I'm saving money by doing it myself quicker, when actually you might be costing yourself more money over time.
So that's exactly it, is that you may be doing something that you're like, okay, it takes me 5 minutes to do it. It's not that big a deal. But the cost savings of buying that other thing, of upgrading or whatever it is, suddenly can make a big difference. I go back to a very like a more in your face kind of example of back in the day when people were, this is a developer kind of thing, but, and even actually, I think across the board, it would take sometimes minutes to boot your machine in the morning. So
Mm.
people would come in and they always had to turn their machine on and boot it up. And it would take literally minutes. So it was literally something where you could like come in, you turn your machine on, you go get yourself a cup of coffee, you come back, you're talking to people for a little bit. And then finally you can actually like log in and do work. Just to go to a machine or wireless or some of the things now that we have where it's just like it's basically instant on, you've saved several minutes, but now you've saved 5 minutes a day over a week. You're talking almost a half an hour, you're talking a couple hours a month. That stuff adds up. Same thing, although it's going to be harder to measure, are things like getting a modern machine versus something that is just that isn't visual. Like some people are like, oh, nobody needs a big screen, nobody needs a wide screen for their work. But depending on what you do, and there is a lot of people that are not developers, accountants are a good example, where it is very valuable for them to have a nice big screen where they can have two spreadsheets up at the same time, or they can be reading a spreadsheet or a report while they're entering it into the accounting system. There's things like that. There's a lot of places where having better equipment actually helps quite a bit. And this goes back, I will throw this back to one of the very first places I worked at. This guy was the development manager, was coming in and they were starting a new software development wing in this consulting company. And one of the stipulations of him coming into work at the company as a development manager was that he was going to be able to have the budget to buy the highest end machines for his developers, which at that point literally made a difference of hours a day probably that we spent working instead of waiting for things to compile and things to recompile and regenerate and all that kind of stuff. That the machine would take large amounts of time, and of course the stronger machine, the faster machine allows you to get through it faster. And that's where you may not have to worry about it too much, but things like having a better internet connection or higher speed wireless, or having wireless that is consistent, things like that in your business. That yes, it costs money, yes, it's infrastructure and investment there, but there is a huge value in doing so because there is a return on your employees' time.
I'll tack onto that slightly before we get to the challenge, but just a good case in point. This is not just for developers. This also runs it to all levels of business. And I will throw this out because I had a customer over a decade ago that I had for almost 11 years before he passed away. But he was a property management business where he would go buy in industrial properties and things like that and contract that. Not a software developer, a business user. So he was using all his computers for business, Word, Excel, QuickBooks, literally just to keep his systems running. I would have to come in on a Friday night and spend 6 hours updating 3 machines to the latest software updates, backing everything up. It took me 6 years to convince him to upgrade to the current level of systems. I mean, we're talking business level. He didn't want to go developer level. My time to upgrade his systems went from 6 to 12 hours to 2 hours. Right there is a huge savings. So again, don't think of this just as a developer's, what I need for my developers. What do I need for my business in general? So if you have secretaries, accountants, make sure you look at how long it is taking to do these system maintenances, and is it worth upgrading versus just maintaining?
So that brings us to the challenge: is take a look at your business. If you have employees, and spend a little time just watching what they do during the day. This is actually, I highly recommend this on a regular basis because it's not so that you can figure out if they're like playing solitaire or something like that. It's because you will learn where they're spending their time and be able to help address those issues, because that's part of what you want to do is help your employees work better, be more effective, be more productive. If it's you, as you're going through the week, where are the times where you're sitting there like tapping your thought, tapping your fingers, waiting for something to happen? Where are the times that you are tempted to go off and catch up on Facebook or something like that because you're like, okay, this is going to take a while, or that you get lost reading email or things like that? Honestly, just the times you get lost reading email, maybe there's something that would be worth it to invest in software that like puts a big red warning light when you've spent more than 5 minutes in email or things like that. There, some of these are, yes, they are restrictive and they feel like, oh my gosh, that's the Gestapo tactics, but they're not. These are things that we do to ourselves as well because we know that we can get squirrelish. We can sit there and go, oh, there's a squirrel. And the next thing you know, we are off on something else instead of doing the stuff that we really want to do. And this is even ourselves. Like I know myself, I shut down notifications on a regular basis and now like live with my phone pretty much not notifying me of anything except for my kids get through. And now I actually resent my kids sometimes because they'll just be like, they'll send something, some little text, and I'm thinking, okay, are you dead? Are you on fire? What? And no, it's just they want to show me a cat video or something like that. However, see, I digress. That's why we put these things in place. And that's what I want you to do is take a look at where are you spending your time? Where are and it's not the things that we get distracted by as much as it's like what are the things that are actually like these little thieves of time that are in our daily and our weekly routines that maybe we can like find a way to improve it. I mean, it would be extreme to say, yeah, it would be nice if I had a car that could go 100 miles an hour so I could get to work faster. Okay, maybe that's not quite it, but there are things like that. There are things like, and it is my employees. That's why there is a phone stipend. There is an internet stipend because they all have internet. And I'm like, spend this to upgrade your internet. It's things like that. It's make sure that they've got a modern phone and not some little thing that we can't get a hold of on. These things are all valuable. Some of them are just like it's easy. It's like it's a low hanging fruit. Business needs to have it. But then there are other things that if you want to be a better business, you need to have it. One thing that everybody has, including ourselves, is an email address. So shoot us an email at info@developreneur.com. Let us know your thoughts, your frustrations, your budget, stuff like that. Anything that you have heard that you like, that you don't like. We love feedback. And we are wrapping up a season pretty soon here, going into another one. And we are very much, looking for what is the next topic. We are very open to that, even more so than normal. You can also reach out to us on developreneur.com. We have a contact us form. You can get us out on, you can follow us on YouTube. There's a Developreneur channel. Wherever you get podcasts, you can follow us there. You can like us. You can send comments. We will, give us feedback. We love to hear from you. Also on X @Developreneur, we have stuff out there on a regular basis. If you haven't tried the podcast, but you're doing YouTube, okay, you're getting pretty much everything you need, although it is a little bit different. You don't see quite, it is a little more cleaned up, we'll say, when we get to the podcast level. But if you're on the podcast, you do there is bonus material. We have other stuff that we talk about. We have at least, I don't know, usually at least 5 to 10 minutes of extra content around every single episode. And then also out on our YouTube channel, we've got stuff way, way, way back. I have had people that are like marketing and brand people that when I talk to them about my little company and what I do, and then I point them to Developreneur, they're like, oh my gosh, you were talking about some little thing of content. You have mountains and oceans of content. And yes, that is what we have there. And if you would like even stuff that we haven't thought of in years, if you'd like feedback, if you'd like help, if you'd like us to, throw some of our suggestions, we would be happy to do so. Right now, I'm happy to give you some time back into your life. Go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. Bonus material.
The biggest thing I will mention is when if you want to figure out what your employees are doing, make sure you keep it as a safe space so you're not hovering, you're not, don't make them uncomfortable because like that. a lot of times when you're trying to figure out what the employees are doing, sometimes it's fun to bring them all into the conference room and say, hey, walk me through a normal routine. What are some of the problems you're having? Put it into a problem solving situation where the team can work together to help mitigate the hangups that everyone's having. It could be software, it could be time. This is just something not just for this, but just in general. It's worth doing every so often so that everyone is on the same page and you can kind of keep things moving. So it is good to do this at least once a year, but it's kind of good to do this more than once in a while and make it a game, make it fun, make it something engaging so that they don't feel threatened when you sit down with your employees.
I think, yeah, I'll go with that. Gamification has been a thing for a few years now, and especially in the world of productivity enhancement, things like that. It really is. It's giving you that endorphin rush of doing things better. And some people get it naturally, but for those that don't, something like that where you make it a challenge, make it a team effort, whatever it is that will draw people in and help you get the feedback you need. So they're going to complain when they need to complain and say, you know what? I could do my job better if this was better, if this was out of my way, if this didn't take so long. Those are some of the kinds of things. And gosh, it can be so simplistic. Sometimes it's like there are companies that have figured out that it was cheaper for them to bring lunch in for their employees than it was to allow their employees to go out for lunch, because they would go out and then it would take extra time, and it was time of they had to go get to their car and drive to the place and wait for the food and then come back and all this kind of stuff. And then it also separated them. They didn't go out as much. But if you have like a family environment essentially where you come in and you have lunch and everybody's working together, everybody has lunch together and stuff like that, then you have a little bit of you have that community feel. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to have a lunch at the same time. You don't have to be like, okay, the bell rings and you go, but having that opportunity will help you build employees that are more loyal to your company, basically, that they're like, now they're not just getting a paycheck, now they are tied to other people. There's a lot of uh, indirect benefits to a lot of the things that we're talking about. And it really is, and the extra, I guess, bonus thing I'll say is, don't knock it until you've tried it. There are things out there that your employees will say, this really matters to me. A good example, like I said, big screens, there's a lot of people talk about. Another one is like just comfortable chairs. If you have
Yes.
employees that complain about, I just like a higher end chair. Don't give me this, garden folding chair that I have to sit in all day, because they're like sitting on it for 8 hours or maybe more. And if you're like, it's no big deal, sit in that chair for that amount of time and see what happens. And that's why, like, again, this is me talking as somebody that I have been in those situations where I've been like, this chair causes me pain. I get up on a regular basis just to go like get out of this thing, or I'll go take my work somewhere else just because I don't want to sit in that chair too long. And
And the
that's when I'm
funny
like,
part, though,
I
is
need to
if
get a new
you
chair.
offer healthcare, that could be you could save money on your healthcare costs by buying a ergonomic chair for your developers.
And there are a lot of companies that will tell you that. They will show you the money. They will show you the numbers that say that, this is where ergonomics got really big. Now I guess it's like 30 years ago, as people realize that there's like, one, there is a cost for every little action you have. And if it takes you even, a tenth of a second more, that can add up over time, and it allows you to be more effective and things like that. But also there's exhaustion that's involved. There is like things like, neck and back injuries and things like that that come over time because of repetitive stress stuff. So there's a lot of places to look. There's a lot of value out there. That's why the challenge is here. That's why I wanted to throw this one out there, is to say, you know what? It seems sunshine and roses and unicorns and all that kind of stuff, but no, it really is a bottom line, black and white. If you are investing in your company, your infrastructure, your employees, so do it wisely and see what happens. I dare you. I also dare you to come back next time around, because we are wrapping this one up. I don't know where I was going to go with that. So I just had to bail out of that one quickly. Go out there and have yourself a great day. We will talk to you guys next time.